So sentiment oftentimes, pre-AI days, a little uneven. Try to measure sentiment, whether it's consumer or B2B. I know myself, I have a lot of scar tissue around trying to measure sentiment for media and reporters. Sure. Do you think AI will finally help us measure sentiment in a way that we can trust, we can rely on to make decisions?
I think it's getting there. And importantly, we can certainly measure sentiment with AI, but we also took a look at how people feel around AI and AI's presence in their life and in their world.
Different kind of sentiment.
Different kind of sentiment.
Right.
One of the first things we need to get over, though, is people feeling more comfortable with the output from AI. Right now, we look at what's available today, and I think we think, we can sniff it out. There's so much that needs to be done.
Right.
But that's where we're at today. Within a very short amount of time, we're going to be at a place where we're not going to be able to tell the difference if something is generated by AI or someone speaking to us necessarily is, it's the information coming to us is AI driven.
Yeah. I kind of like the fact that I can look at something, whether it's text or a cat swallowing a challah, and it looks very stylized. It looks like it's AI, or the text is a little off because it might be hyperbolic in the in the words it's using.
Today.
Because, well, I often say I want generative AI to stay kind of crappy and predictive AI to get even better, because I think that AI can be helpful, but I don't believe in the singularity. It's not going to take over.
Well, absolutely. And I heard a story earlier this week on the Crusette about a CEO having the opportunity to personalize all of these email messages with AI to all of his team. And I think the output, or what we ended up with in that conversation, was the CEO actually did not want to do that. Absolutely said no, because he said, no one will believe anything I send after this one piece. So what you're saying makes a lot of sense. Being able to personalize, do predictive analytics, being able to better understand data outputs, and getting, sorry, I lost my train of thought on that one.
That's okay.
What I want to say, hang on.
That's okay. We edit all the stuff out.
I want to talk about the difference between AI impersonating us, people, versus giving us information, making things quicker, really being sort of more of a utility.
Right.
I think that's where the separation, I hope, comes in the next, really, I hate to even say, 5 years, really in the next 1 to 2 years.
Let me ask the question this way. AI is never going to be a surrogate for humanity, for what we want to say, our own agency, right? It's more of an assistant.
Well, I think that's where it's at today, and that's the greatest risk, is today we can sniff it out, right? Today we can tell. Today we know if something's AI generated, or at least we believe we do. We recently did a piece of work at Neilsen that told us about 48% of people said that they only think that they can tell if something's AI generated or not. And at the pace that AI is moving, I really think it's going to be in very short order that we really won't be able to tell.
Right. Well, it's kind of like in the same way that people can't tell the difference between sponsored content and earned media, like news coverage.
So that's actually a great point.
Even though it might be disclosed, they don't necessarily, either they don't weight it, or they don't use it to either up-level or discredit something.
But I think the disclosure is the point there. So today, you can see sponsored on the bottom of anything, from whether you're searching for something on Amazon or you're looking at a piece of content online. We don't have yet those sort of guardrails around AI, and I think that's something that needs to come.
Well, let me ask you this, and I know PR is not your jam, you're a data person, and I love that. If President Biden, after the State of the Union, had credits roll, there'd be 300 names.
True.
Like, as a PR person, I'm like the person behind the curtain. I'm the invisible hand. I would have attribution for so many bylines. So in PR, I'm kind of mixed about disclosure, because that's what we do anyway. We don't get attribution. What's the difference if I'm using a tool to help me perform better? Because it's still doing it on my behalf, at my behest.
Well, I think it depends on what we use the tool for, and therein is the guardrail that we don't have and that needs to be developed.
Too, right? Yeah, that's interesting. I never thought about that. What else are you seeing from a data perspective when it comes to AI? So you guys are constantly swimming in data, collecting data. It's like always on.
We recently did a piece of work trying to understand how consumers feel about AI being used very specifically in creative advertising. We wanted to know whether or not they felt that the creative was meaningful enough, that it was nuanced. We specifically asked LGBTQ+, Hispanic, African American, Black, and Asian folks how they felt
No small
about,
bald men? That was not part of the cohort?
You know what? Perhaps part of every single one of those cohorts.
It's tough. Yeah, maybe. Yes.
But we wanted to look at the differences between communities and how they felt that AI-generated creative content, and of course, just advertising content in general, how well it resonated with them, how well it felt that it captured the nuance of their cultural identity. Overwhelmingly, folks told us that they felt that it didn't, but they also told us overwhelmingly that they were very supportive of AI. There were sort of two camps. We talked about AI and creative advertising, and then we talked about it as a utility for people. And more than 75% of people say they're using AI. The large majority of that is AI that has been sort of pushed, for lack of a better word, into our lives. So think of the search that is today organic in Instagram is AI generated.
Right.
So, and these are things technically that have always existed. They've always been AI generated. But now companies are increasingly telling us things like your Spotify DJ or the recommendations that are served up in Netflix and Hulu. Those are all AI generated.
Which is just another form of labeling in many ways.
But there's some confusion around large language models and all the other AI that we're actually engaging with every single day.
Right. Last question. How do you, I feel personally that generative AI is a false flag. I started PRophet trying to predict reporter interest and sentiment, or what third party is going to want to engage in content, what's the threat or what's the trend. And I think predictive AI is really where we're headed.
I do too.
And yeah, I mean, how do you feel about that? Because how do we actually course correct? Because when we say AI, immediately everyone thinks generative. They think ChatGPT.
100%.
And it drives me nuts because the future is fit for purpose tools, right? And ones that I think are utilizing data in a way that can actually help us plan, help us be more strategic and more creative.
More efficient.
And more efficient, right.
I think there is a huge opportunity for education there, and that's actually one of the things that came out of our piece of research. We found that overwhelmingly folks told us, well, not overwhelmingly, but about 50% of folks told us that they trust what large language models, what generative AI is giving them. And that to me, for a lot of folks, like, oh, that's fantastic. Obviously, we know that's a tremendous risk. So there's a huge opportunity to educate around the differences between what AI actually is. When people think AI, they think of one thing and one thing only, and they don't recognize that they're actually having interactions on a daily basis with all sorts of AI from sunup to sundown.
Right. I lied. I have one more question.
Okay. I don't know if I'll try and answer. I'm not sure if I can.
I think at least in the PR world, agencies always pitch like, here are the people who are going to work in your business, here's their experience, and here's our fun little process, right? Same thing in advertising, any sort of professional services, and the shift is really to people, process, technology. How do we get folks to think about this as an investment, not as a cost, and not as a replacement, but as additive?
Again, I'm going to go back to sort of education and what we're using it for. I mean, I think of myself, my own personal experience with AI. I'm not using it to generate content for me, but I'm certainly using it to do quick fact checking. I'm using it, which I then need to fact check again.
Right, and you're probably synthesizing lots of data using things like WordTune and other, right?
And now again, I'm not speaking for Neilsen, but me personally.
You personally,
right? Actually, going back to the point we made earlier, we were talking about even Grammarly now is just as of the last few months is now giving you sort of more. It was probably always AI generated, but now it's certainly more visible.
Right.
So I think the effort there to educate the consumer more on the difference between the different parts of AI that have great utility will probably lean a lot into a larger acceptance of what AI we are comfortable with, we like to see, and what AI feels like it's probably a little bit outside of our comfort zone.
Well, that's a great way to end it. Thank you so much,
Thank
Stacie.
you. I appreciate the time.
it.